All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this very special audio commentary for this particular episode of Creepshow, the TV series. My name is Michael Felsher with Red Shirt Pictures, and for this particular segment of this episode, Bad Wolf Down, I'm here with the writer and director, Mr. Rob Schraub. How are you, sir?
Hey, how you doing? So excited to be here. Love Creepshow. This is a dream come true, ladies and gentlemen. Like, I grew up loving this movie, wanting to live in this movie, just everything about this. The original Creepshow and Creepshow 2 just is so fantastic. So to be a part of this legacy is, oh God, like I can die now. I mean, really, it really is special to me. I'm flabbergasted, if you can't tell, that I'm finally here doing this.
And it was interesting, Rob, because I saw some footage of you on the set when you were being interviewed, and you actually got choked up at one point when you started thinking about...
Oh, God. About George Romero. I mean, like, Dan Harmon and I met George Romero when we first came out here, and we were actually pitching him, get this, a remake of Dawn of the Dead.
Ah.
And that's how long ago we met him. And he was delightful and great, and I've always been such a huge fan. He was a hero of mine. I miss him a great deal, and this is for George. So here we go, Bad Wolf Down. Now, this is a story that I actually came up with years ago that I always wanted to do as either like a feature, a comic book, an episode of an anthology, and here we are. I finally get to see this thing through. And I wanted to kind of convey like the Weird War, EC Comics, and smash it up with old school Tomb of the Dead, you know, crazy, like just those old EC Comics. I mean, I love it. I love it. So here we go. This is David McDonald right there. He's just stabbed the guy. We hired him, we cast him because he just looks like Sergeant Rock. Perfect square jaw. And just, he actually is in the military. I'm not sure if he's a Marine or not, but he knew everything, and he just fit and looked the part, and he was really, really great.
So how did you end up coming onto the series? How did you get contacted for it?
Totally I've met Greg Nicotero a long time ago. I had a script that I was trying to get off the ground. It's like a killer octopus movie, but there were all these Creepshow references in it. It was like, where's my cake? And our mutual friend, Derek Mears, who is the Swamp Thing, and Jason Voorhees, introduced us, and in Greg's office is the crate where Fluffy was.
Right,
I don't know if it was the original one, but it was a replica.
Yeah, no,
so we just bonded over Creepshow.
Yeah, I believe that's George's crate, actually.
Oh gosh, and so when I found out he was doing this, I just cold called him out of the blue, and I said, I have to be a part of this. What can I do? Here are ideas. I pitched him like 15 different ideas, and we landed on this one. And he loves werewolves and monsters, and so this was kind of a perfect match for him and Creepshow and myself. Look at how awesome Rob Draper led this and shot this. We wanted everything to be very contrast heavy. Look at those shadows. You can see the ashtray right in the lower left-hand corner there.
Ashtray's got to be in there somewhere.
These crazy wide lenses, I wanted to give that perspective. Camera's moving, real creepy. Lots of graphic shapes with that window in the background. That'll come into play later.
Yeah.
This is Nelson Bonella. I'm butchering his name. Sorry, Nelson. He was kick-ass, so good, really, really awesome. All these guys were great, but Nelson just really... it's fun to play a bad guy, but he played a bad guy that you wanted to punch out, and he was just really great. And he just fit that... I said, everybody, it's Kelly's Heroes, okay? We're doing Inglourious Bastards. We're not being real. We're being heightened because this is a comic book. So dig into it. Chew through the scenery because you're werewolves. Chew it up. Okay, here's American Werewolf in London reference right here. We patterned the whole tearing of the face off of like the mutilation in American Werewolf in London.
Oh yeah, that is. Yeah, it looks just like Griffin
Yeah.
Dunn's makeup. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Totally
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to do this. This is Kid Cudi right here. Famous, awesome, brilliant, genius rap star. He is a fan of my comic book, Scud the Disposable Assassin, and we've met several times, and he loves horror movies. So when I did this, I said, hey, dude, you have to do this. And he read the script, loved it, and had to be a part of it. And he was great. And speaking of great,
Yeah,
here we
yeah,
go. Mr. Jeffrey Combs, the Reanimator himself. Oh, man. This guy I have loved since I was a very young child. Like, he so good, so professional, and got it from the beginning. Enthusiasm, knew his lines, and just gave it just a little bit of twinge of humor in there, and it was, man. As soon as he put on the uniform and started walking around, I was like, this is going to be fantastic. He's the best. I love you, Jeffrey. You're amazing. Please work with me again. You see a little scar on his cheek, on his cheekbone there. I guess like that was like a sign of you're a badass Nazi if you have like a fencing scar on your cheek there. So we had to have that in there.
Coming up, you have a real old school lighting background change.
Yeah, this is when Rob and I looked at this, we were like, oh my God, we're doing Creepshow. Now, this is all practical, projected on the tent ceiling. So it was just a quick switch over. I wish we could have done more of that, but less is more, actually. It was pretty cool that it was in there. And I said, holy cow, I am living the dream. I am in Creepshow. This is Rivers, Callan Wilson. He was the youngest and really, really great, despite the fact that he was green, but he really, leaned into it.
So what was the appeal for you of doing a werewolf story? Because werewolves are some of the most popular and most overused monsters in all of horror history. How did you find a way to bring something new to this?
I love them. Yeah, overuse them. I'm a big fan of the kind of little guy turns into a big monster, whether it's werewolves, Wolfman, the Hulk. I'm a big fan of that because it's just like, and especially the ones that are in that Lon Chaney, oh, I'm cursed. I don't want to hurt anybody anymore. I don't want to hurt anybody anymore. I always love that. And that's what Kate Freund here, who is the woman in white, who is also my wife, who I wrote this part for because I was like, there's only one person that can play. She had this kind of Yvette Mimieux, Uma Thurman, and like just kind of there was kind of like this kind of almost like this Inglourious Bastards, Tarantino, like it's very Reservoir Dogs, these guys stuck in there, and it's of course Inglourious Bastards. So there's like all these homages and things like that. But I wrote this part for Kate, and I said, as soon as I sent it in, I said, start working on your French accent because I need you. I need a ringer that's going to be able to come into this, and I need somebody that's not going to complain wearing these awful, terrible contact lenses. And she was like, whatever you want, we'll do it. And Greg was, you want her? Yeah, let's get her. She sounds amazing. So, and she just kicked ass and did a terrific job. Everybody did a terrific job. But this is the first time Kate and I ever really got a chance to work together as actor and director. We usually write together, but actor and director, this is the first time. And it was great. Nelson's such an asshole. What a great guy. Just everybody's got a square jaw. Everybody's sweating. All that. We have Rivers, the young man. Yeah, that was now the end of Rivers' arc right there. He was getting shit on all over the place by Quist, but then he gets the one up, punches him out.
Changes it, man. Bastard! Sorry, boys. Come back here, Quest! Can't risk a bullet in
Like even some of your character names harken back to some classic werewolf movies. Quist, of course, being Eddie Quist from The Howling.
Yep. Rivers is from from I Was a Teenage Werewolf. Talby, of course, Lawrence Talby. You don't really hear it on camera, but Doc Kessler is Kid Cudi's full name, and Kessler is, of course, the American Werewolf in London.
Right.
Captain, come here. She's not gonna make it, Doc.
Talk about working on this set. I mean, you only had 3 days to shoot this, and what was the value of this set?
Great. You know, it was small and tight, but I wanted it to be claustrophobic. And it worked out. You know, I've worked under high pressure situations before, usually in comedy rather than horror, but we could have done it in a bigger room and it might have been easier, but it would have lost a lot of that man in a cage feeling, basically. I mean, like, these guys have got to feel trapped. They've got to get to a point where they're backed into the corner that they have no choice but to give up their souls to survive, which is coming up. I love this is what is great about Creepshow is these comic book split screens and gutters, and we were able to expand on. We couldn't get a lot of locations or production value in terms of like World War II, but we did it with the comic book. We leaned into the comic book. Whenever I said, when in doubt, when we can't afford it, lean into the comic book. Lean into the comic book, because Creepshow can do that, and Black Mirror can't. Twilight Zone can't. We're the only anthology that can really lean into like the old pulpy comic book graphics and quality, and it was so fun. Oh my God, I want to do this the rest of my life.
So do you enjoy the anthology format, both as a viewer and as a filmmaker? Because the cool thing is you can get in and get out and tell a story in a short amount of time. You don't have to add a lot of fat to it, that sort of thing.
No, I love it because I'm a big fan of anything that's like, oh, it's a new story every week. Whether it's an anthology, whether it's Doctor Who, whether it's like The Fugitive, there's just, okay, hey, you know, let's do one set in World War II. Let's set one in a modern day living room. Let's set one on Lake Champlain with Tom Savini. You know, like it really is like, well, what haven't we done yet? Let's do one of those. And that's why it's so cool. And Greg just got it and loved it and is just a big monster kid. And I'm a big monster kid too. And I owe him so much for allowing me to be a part of this. This really is a dream come true. So everybody takes off their helmets. That means they've given up.
Yeah.
All given up. So we finally get to see these guys be like, you know, have a moment of vulnerability and just like, oh, what are we going to do? Giving up on your faith. Now, no one's coming to save us. We're on our own.
Here, man. Take it. It'll do you more good than it.
We actually had a chocolate cross that that Kate was supposed to eat, but you know, we'd have to cut and do this, and we were sitting there figuring it out, like, oh, well, maybe we could move the camera over here and do that. And Kate was just like, just let me fucking eat it. And then she just ate the prop, you know, like, do you want us to watch it? No, let's just go. That's why I love working with her, because she's up for anything. She just would do anything to push it just a little bit further. Now, the cool thing about this werewolf story, unlike a lot of werewolf stories that I'm a fan of, is that unlike Lawrence Talbot, who does not want to be a werewolf, these guys are going, this is our only way out. Let's pull the pin on this grenade and become werewolves, and let's start beating some Nazi ass. Now, what we did, I had them all have gas masks because we had a limited amount of stuntmen. Now, these other guys were not necessarily in later on the fight, and I had to recycle stunt guys. So I said, let's cover them up with like these kind of old school gas masks. And so we were able to do a lot more. We made it look like there was a bigger army than there really was. I think there might have been like 3 guys that we were messing around with when everything really goes to town. Kate is so good in this. She's just wonderful. I just adore her. This is stock footage.
Yep.
What if it ain't gonna work on us?
That moon in the window, Rob Draper took a paper plate from craft service, glued it to the wall, and then hit it with a spotlight. So that's how cheap we were doing. Look at those teeth. Oh, my God, he looks so good. Look at it. What a dream. Okay, speaking of leaning into the comic book, I knew we couldn't outdo Rick Baker or Rob Bottin or Greg Nicotero, to be honest. But I knew we could do something comic book style. And we just couldn't afford to do a transformation sequence, so we did the flip book thing. And I really love that. You know, I think it really made it feel more Creepshow, more pulpy.
Well, it's a comic book. It makes sense, you know?
Yeah. Make it a comic book. That's what we want. This whole scene was fun to do, but wow, we were stressed out.
I bet.
Should have had like 3 days to shoot this. We shot it in an afternoon. So here's all the badass werewolves. Look at that. We got the Howling, we got the Wolfman, we got the American Werewolf in London. Boom.
Yeah, that's right. You have all the werewolf types represented here.
Yeah. And then the blood on the window makes everything go red, and now we're in hell. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, so great. Yeah, guts everywhere. Green and red. How awesome is that? Get him, yeah. All those gunshots were put in after the fact. That one close-up of the guy getting his head whacked over is actually the same guy who got his face torn up earlier, the Nazi that we saw before we even saw the woman in white that appeared out of nowhere, the American Werewolf in London makeup. So we reused that effect. So this is Jeffrey's own hand with a wolf glove sticking in his own mouth so he could tear off his own thing, because it's like, if you're, an actor with all this stuff on and you're shoving fingers, especially clawed fingers, in somebody else's mouth, you're probably going to be a lot more delicate. But if it's your own hand, you're going to get in there and you're going to pull your own jaw off, especially when you're as committed of an actor as Jeffrey. Look at that. Oh, I love all this. This is very comic book to me.
Whoops, mines.
And reveal, minefield. Whoops.
Yeah.
Okay, so this whole scene at the end was actually supposed to be in kind of like a MASH mobile medical unit with all of the werewolves surrounding him at the end, but we went over with the fight. We only had a couple of hours to shoot it, and Kid Cudi had to go back to New York, so we didn't have everybody. So I wrote the scene like the night before, just paring it down between the two of them, and I actually kind of like it better because it makes it focused on their two relationships. I always had it in my head like, well, they're in the middle of there's doctors and nurses all over the place, and no one's going, werewolves, should we call the police? Nobody, it's just, it's creepier that these guys are alone. And also what I love about what David is doing here is he's taking a delight in horrifying Nelson, and that to me is EC Comics. There is a delight in horrifying you kiddies out there. Like we're gonna lure you in with like monsters and stuff, but we're here to give you nightmares. And was so much fun. Oh my God! Thank you, Greg. Thank you, George. Thank you, Tom Savini. Thank you, everybody, for letting me be a part of this. Creepshow is so near and dear to my heart, and I'm going to start crying if I talk too much, but it really is special, and I hope to live in that world again. I really loved it.
All right, welcome to The Finger. This was actually the first story that we optioned for Creepshow Season 1. This is Greg Nicotero, director, showrunner, talking, and to my right
is me, David J. Scow. I wrote this. It's based on my short story. And one of the real triumphs of this show is that nobody remembers that it's called The Finger. Everybody remembers that it's The One with Bob.
The one with Bob. Bob for president, right?
The Finger was... you read the short story, correct?
I did.
Yeah, you read the short story. The short story has been around since 2013. And it was published in a book called Psychomania, or The Mammoth Book of Psychomania, which is important because both versions of that book had Robert Bloch on the cover, the guy who wrote the novel of Psycho, from whence cometh the name Bob for our little finger guy here. But tell the story about how we got DJ, because he owns this show. He knocks it out of the park.
He really does. I mean, I couldn't have been more excited and proud of his performance. You know, originally we had talked to Simon Pegg.
Correct.
And Simon was really excited about it. And about 2 weeks before we started shooting, Simon was like, listen, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. My schedule's changed. And actually, Craig Engler had put DJ on one of our casting lists earlier. And I was like, God, I love that guy. He's great. I wonder if we could get him. And literally, it was the next thing we knew, DJ was agreed to do it. The first thing he said to me when he showed up was, he was like, please tell me I don't have to do all of the voiceover, because if I just have to learn the dialogue that I'm saying to the camera, I can do the voiceover another time. And I said, yeah, don't worry about that. He's like, oh, thank God. And he showed up. He was so excited. I've never seen somebody sort of embrace the process, you know. And so many times during the shoot, he would look at me and be like, God, this reminds me of what it's like. You get a bunch of people together that all just have a tremendous passion for it, and it's infectious.
Does Creepshow have any other? This is basically a one-man show.
Yeah.
Does it have any others that are one-person shows? I think this is the only one.
He had to carry the entire show. Mm-hmm. I think there's a couple other characters that have a little bit of dialogue here and there. But, you know, and it's funny because originally when I read the script and it's like he's talking to the camera, and I wasn't ready for that. Like, I wasn't prepared for him to talk to the camera, but there's no other way to tell this story.
There's a reason for doing that, too, because he's kind of a borderline loser character. And when you're watching this, you have to sort of like him despite that, or you're not going to go with the story, and that's why he does that.
And it's funny because we ended up recutting the opening a little bit because...
Well, you put the middle in the opening.
We put the middle in
an action beat.
Yeah, it's kind of like what the old Outer Limits used to do. They'd give you a little snippet of what was about to happen. And I thought it gave us a different introduction to Clark, because if you discover him where he's going through his house and he has the gun, and all of a sudden your first dealings with him are different. And then he maybe appears to be just slightly less of a wacko when he's walking down the street sort of talking about, you know, all this weird stuff.
And the street he's walking down in the beginning of the show, incidentally, is he's walking down the sidewalk right across the street from the house in Gray Matter.
Yes.
Because we shot those in the middle of the night in a place called, what was Clarkstown, Georgia? Yeah.
So the design of Bob, I have to say, is very interesting because there was an artist named Franco Carlissimo.
Is it Federico or Franco?
Franco.
Okay.
Was it Franco? I think it was Franco. Anyway, I had seen this drawing on this 3D model of this creature that he had done, and I immediately went, well, that's what I want Bob to sort of feel like.
You sent it to me.
I sent it to you, and then I actually reached out to him and said, hey, I'd love to use this design. We changed it a little bit and we refined it, but you know, the idea was we were going to embrace an animatronic puppet, and then we were going to also do some stop motion. Like, I love the idea of using every technique in the book.
When was your last opportunity to use actual stop motion animation in a show?
It was probably before cell phones existed. It might have been that long ago.
Talk a little bit about speaking of stop motion. Talk a little bit about Jim Davidson.
Yeah, so Jim, I met Jim several years ago because we were talking about Ray Harryhausen stuff, and Jim had done a stop motion Cyclops and a stop motion Talos. And when this came up, I had reached out to him almost immediately and said, hey, so I got this show coming up. So because we did Bob, we sculpted him in the computer and did a 3D model because I knew that we were going to need to make multiple sizes. We're going to have to do the full-size Bob for the puppet on set, and then we were going to need a smaller version of Bob for the stop motion. So we actually, Dave Grasso did all of the sculpting work in ZBrush, and then we output 2 different sizes and then mold them and then built the mechanics from there.
Yeah, Jim's got a lot of pictures of that process, too, of just the big Bob, little Bob on the boom.
Yeah.
There's the comic pages again.
Yeah. I mean, that really was something that made a huge difference for us. And, in the script, it was funny because this is where we're beginning to sort of show this connection between Clark and Bob. The idea even that, like, the finger was in the refrigerator, now it's a finger and a thumb, but it's sunning itself. It's like a cat. And then it reaches up and touches his hand. And I really like the idea that he doesn't get freaked out by this is now, he's like the purveyor of weirdly found things. So
yeah, and this is an anomaly for him
Yeah.
that he just discovered on the sidewalk. And also...
And it keeps getting better.
Yes, and we hasten to point out that we're talking about Bob in advance of you actually seeing Bob on this audio commentary because we have to assume you've watched this show before. If you haven't watched this episode before, why are you listening to this first?
Well, the interesting thing about this is it's really about the pacing. You don't see Bob alive until 18 pages into the story.
Now, I have a question. I watched a take of this that had a label on that can that said coffee.
Yes.
It went away? We're just supposed to get the idea that he's eating instant coffee and then drinking
it
it.
Probably got lost in one of the
There's the stuff.
the shuffle somewhere.
We have the stuff in the freezer. We have the street address of Clark's apartment. We have the infamous Creepshow ashtray.
Yep.
Is on his table.
And one of your books is on the counter above his computer.
It's next to the computer monitor. In fact, it's Greg's copy of the book that has the short story version of The Finger in it. Now, this is where, okay, and we also have Harrow. Is that Harrow's Light or Harrow's Supreme? One of these bottles is also Harrow's. It's a through line in Creepshow. But the book that is next to Clark's monitor is the second place that The Finger was published, and it has now become a prop. Oh, I see there. I see the top of the ashtray in that shot.
Yeah.
Something else is blocking it. I love this garage set, too. We shot at least one scene in here that we didn't use, which was the shot of him looking at the picture of his family
In the
and
trash
dropping
can.
it in the trash can.
Yeah.
And I remember that just to emphasize the fact that he was split up from these people forever, we made DJ drop the framed picture into the trash can. We made him drop it in there about 4 times.
Yeah.
And the 4th time he dropped it in, and the glass on the picture broke perfectly
Right
between
in half.
DJ and the
Yeah.
rest of the family.
Yeah. So now here's Bob. Now, of course, he's got red hair in his hand, and he's covered in blood, and there's some blood droplets around, and the mystery now continues.
It's a leap of faith. You have to accept that he has mentioned before that his ex-wife had red hair. We just have to roll with that.
Yeah.
Because it'll get more specific. There's Gino Cragnell,
Yeah, there's Gino.
KNB worker extraordinaire. I
So
don't think
we
he has
shot
any
this-
lines, though.
No, he's just there looking like a cop. So we shot this green screen outside of the stage, and then we used the background plates from the location
Oh, yeah.
because this was all on a set.
Yeah, because this angle is on a soundstage.
Disturbance at her condo
And that's my little midnight run in joke. Walsh, that's De Niro's name in Midnight Run. So it's
And
detective.
what's Gino's name? Is it
God, he just said it. But
Mosley?
yeah,
Oh,
Mosley
okay.
and Walsh.
Yeah.
So that was my little midnight.
Because
run.
in the script he was named Cody.
Yeah, I think I just was. I was having a little bit of fun.
That was a Carpenter needle drop right there.
Yeah. But this whole beat where he slams the door and then looks at the camera and talks and then opens the door again when he's hysterical. DJ did an amazing job here. It's so weird and it's so random. But I just love that
I didn't think it would play.
No,
and it plays like a baby doll.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just you completely follow what he's doing. And this was hysterical enough because when you were directing this, I actually watched you direct 2 shows at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like Greg would check the setup like on his phone or on the monitor, and he would literally run from one end of the soundstage to the other and go, action, cut, and then he would run back, action, cut.
I was trying to make sure we got everything that we could get. So this bit, the first reveal of Bob, it was really interesting. I don't remember what it was, but like right before we shot this scene, I decided that I wanted Bob to be out of focus for all of these shots. So you see him in the background and you stay on Clark. And I was like, oh, I want to build the mystery of this thing walking around the kitchen. So he jumps up there and then he spins the monitor and we actually see Clark using the monitor to get a better look at Bob. And it was 2 days before we shot this that I came up with this sort of new blocking. And then he finally turns and Bob's drinking out of the faucet with the little animated tongue there.
Yeah, I wondered about his tongue because we didn't see that on the set. But the version of him reflected in the monitor is not stop motion. That's just the
That
puppet,
was the
right?
puppet.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then-
there's Bob, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody fell in love with Bob. Apparently,
I did too,
Bob,
by the way.
Bob blew up on Twitter the day after this show broadcast on Shudder.
I love Bob too. So the idea is that he's a pet, but he understands. So when we shot this, there was a boom arm that came out of the back of Bob so that we could get the up and down and the side to side movement, and there were puppeteers that were operating the arms. Now, even the fact that I realized that Bob needed to be above Clark for all this. So I was like, oh, well, what if when he falls out of the chair, Bob jumps up onto the chair so that we could shoot up angles on Bob because we could get more performance out of the puppet that way.
This is for those of you who wonder what a director does on the set. It's
Or
like you make
a special
decisions
effects
like,
guy.
You make decisions like this because the guy that we just saw as the cop, Gino, and another guy from K&B that we'll be seeing shortly, Jake Garber, they were both on the floor operating Bob. And one of the funniest things about this show was that when people started writing reviews of this, they said, well, Bob is okay except for some dicey CGI.
Yeah.
And I'm going, you moron, it's not CGI.
Yeah.
The only CGI here is boom and wire removal,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah.
It's all augmentation. And now we have Bob sleeping. I love shooting these shots. Like there, he's all curled up, and you can hear him like purring like a cat, and he's got his hands under his head.
Who came
laying
up
on
with
the
that?
side.
Who came up with Bob purring?
I did.
Because
I like the idea of him being like he's like a good pet.
this is why we hire Greg Nicotero.
And then here's Bob eating popcorn.
In his most infamous scene,
Listen, we had so much fun. I like that he keeps looking up at Clark like, get the fuck out of the way. I'm trying to watch TV.
Yeah, he tries
so
to
in
look
that
around
first
him.
shot, he's trying to look past him.
and I think your fellow producer on Creepshow, Julia Hobgood,
Yep.
said that she tried to record her cat to get Bob sounds at some point. Where did the Bob sounds come from?
We
anyway?
talked about, I think I auditioned a lot of stuff because I like the hiss and the chirping. You know, I mean, like Fluffy in the original Creepshow movie, Fluffy chirped.
Yeah, I like that metallic kind of.
Yeah.
It's not real hostile but it's alien.
Yeah, it just needed to sound strange and, unusual.
Now, unfortunately, if you freeze frame that shot of the refrigerator door, you'll see the menu is just covered with Latin gobbledygook.
Oh, well, I never did that. But this is what makes me laugh about it is that I love that Bob is basically now bringing him little presents.
Yep. If you ever had a cat bring you half of a snake, you know what I'm talking about. And I also like that fact that everything essentially, this is an urban thing, everything essentially goes down the toilet or the disposal. And people think it's this all-purpose way of getting rid of everything.
Yeah.
And until your disposal clogs up.
So now we're with Clark again. There was a little bit more dialogue there that we ended up taking a little bit out. But this was, everybody that works for me had a cameo in this. That's Jake Garber.
More people mistook Jake for you in that shot.
Yeah.
Is that Greg Nicotero?
So funny. But the fuckity fuck, I think was because I had said that to somebody, and then I think that's how we got that in there. But listen, in all the meat in the sink, it just had to look disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
So
And the disposal's got to malfunction because, Clark's got to get it on him.
Bob just disappeared.
Well, Bob tends to do that.
But it's really funny because taking an inanimate character like a puppet and giving him character and life and having the audience really feel, that was all on DJ.
He has to sell it. He had
to sell it. And I remember this particular shot. This is like one of the last shots that we did with DJ because we were like, we have like 25 minutes to shoot one last take before we got to go home.
Yeah.
So we put the tongue on. We just literally put the tongue here, put the camera there. And he's so excited now because now his friend is home.
I love the expression on DJ's face when he realizes Bob has come back.
Yeah, and he pats the refrigerator. I think I told him to do that over and over again. Just pat the refrigerator. He's like, I did that in the other take.
And I remember there were a couple of takes of DJ looking at the camera and going, that is a tongue.
Yeah. And there's Julia, who's
doing a cameo as Roz, the Nazi bitch debt collector lady.
Producer, co-executive producer in season 2.
It was her, the Nazi bitch.
And I remember you told me the story, they came back during production and they said, listen, does Bob really have to fly?
Yeah.
And Greg says, yes.
Yeah, he does because it's ridiculous and it's so funny.
And I love his little tongue sticking out.
Yeah, it's like a dog sticking his head out of the car.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Maybe somewhere it said that they were like you use squirrel noises as part of the mix. For Bob.
Yeah. We auditioned a ton of stuff, but there was like squirrel and possum, and there was a whole bunch of stuff that we used.
I don't know if everybody was watching close enough, but earlier we were talking about Bob Block and Psycho. If you look really close at the Clark's TVs, there's a shot with Janet Leigh on one of the things on Clark's TV. And it's like, nah, Bob, what are you into? Look at this.
So this actually scene makes me laugh every single time.
Why is that, Greg?
Because it's ridiculous. It's just anybody that has kids that you're in the middle of taking a dump and the kid opens the door like nothing's wrong. That was a little sort of improv that I did on set where I went, wait a minute, what if, because in the original script, I think he was on the couch and Bob comes over. And so I went, wait a minute, let's just have him on the toilet and it was kind of funny because I think there were people like, we don't really need that scene. I'm like, yeah, we do. It's funny.
They thought you were going for some kind of toilet humor thing, and that wasn't it at all.
Yeah. It was just showing that Bob continues to, first of all, they have a connection, but Bob's very proud of what he brought back, and he can't wait. It's like I can't wait to show you what.
Well, he's enthusiastic, and he goes up and down. He gets all excited.
Yeah, that's his little move.
And that's the thing. It's you see people working on a set begin to treat Bob like one of the actors.
Mm-hmm.
and we just had a ball with this scene.
Yeah. I think I put a little plastic bucket of blood in there, and just told DJ to keep going until I said cut.
Yeah, I can't really say enough good things about DJ in this show because he put it on like an overcoat, man.
Yeah.
It's like he is so good.
I was sad when he left
Yeah.
because we had a great time. Now this particular sequence, because we were challenged with scheduling.
We were shooting this at 3 a.m.
This was the last shot, and originally in the script there was 2 moments. There was one moment where he was sitting talking to a female doctor,
Correct.
and then we went from that shot to this shot. And then when we were shooting, I was like, guys, we're never gonna have time to do that. The episode is so dense. So
And we don't have room to cast another part and do another set.
we
and
didn't
do all
have.
this.
Yeah, we couldn't even build a 2-walled set.
The
at this
problem
point.
is that, and we all realized it on the day, was that DJ's now got to do twice the speech. And sitting like all in one take, sitting and then standing and then,
But it was beautiful.
oh
I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
People
we ended
clapped.
Up,
People clapped on set.
we ended up cutting it up, which I didn't really want to do because I liked the idea that we did it as a oneer.
You shot it
where
all
the
in one.
camera booms up.
Yeah.
We just threw the second camera in there to get an alternate angle because just in case. But
When did you decide to cut it up, or did somebody else say cut it up?
I believe it was a suggestion from someone else, just for pacing, because I think we may have removed a couple of lines here or there. But ultimately, the fact that DJ's performance held up, and he was able to get all of the emotion in one camera move that Rob Draper did. And I think in the original cut, that was the only place that we cut to the side angle. And we wanted the sound effect of Bob at the window.
And for those of you who are wondering, is Bob real or is Bob not real? Well, it all depends on whether Clark has a picture of him on his phone, doesn't it? So we're gonna maintain the mystery.
But I was really, really proud of the episode, and it was a little polarizing because there were some people that didn't quite understand like why he was talking to the camera, what was going on. But to me, I would say overall, people approached me with the fact that was their favorite episode.
Now,
so, good job, David.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you for sure, because I'm so happy to get the call from you and all that. But and here we are, poised on the brink of doing more.
Yes.
And is there an ad in the Creepshow comic book saying "Get your own Bob"?
There is. I have to remember where we put it.
Bob should be like Sea Monkey.
It was a riff on the Sea Monkey ad, but it was like, get your own Bob. I think there might be a Bob toy that might make an appearance in season 2.
I hope, well,
just as a
Bob 2, the sequel,
as a set dressing piece. Anyway,
thank you so much, Greg.
Thank you, David.
I love you, man.
And a huge love to the cast and crew. Did a great job, and DJ Qualls.